What's going on, guys? We're back again with another episode. As per usual, my name is Derek.
I'm Dot.
So today we wanted to discuss royalties. So in music, it's very common for producers, songwriters to receive royalties on many records, but you don't really hear so much about engineers receiving royalties on records as much as producers or songwriters. So we wanted to discuss today whether or not engineers actually deserve royalties. Should it be a more common thing? So what do you think? Do you think engineers deserve more royalties for the work that they do?
I speak on my own, I guess, from my own perspective and my own experience. I think it really depends on the agreement right from the beginning of the record and the expectations. I mean, I personally think it would be nice to get some royalties as an engineer. However, I also understand that people usually, it's more of a paid service. Like, you're a part of the process, but you might not necessarily be as much of a creative force behind mixing, but it's also creative, but it's a very different creativity than, for example, a producer might have. It's like a weird space where I think some records yes, some records no, depends on how you guys, what the agreement was between the artists. I personally get some royalties on certain records. I think like depends on the artist as well. Usually, okay, I would say like this. I've definitely had situations where people would approach me and they like, "You're gonna get the royalties, but we're not gonna pay you for mixing."
Right.
And I would say, "Okay, show me the royalty statement for last year." So it's one of those things where I'm like, I don't mind necessarily maybe cutting my rate and getting the percentage of the record, but like it needs to make sense, right?
Yes,
It needs to be, it needs to make sense in a way where I'm not gonna mix a record, spend whatever, even record, mix a record, master, spend 20 hours, 24 hours, whatever it's gonna be, spend a whole bunch of time on it. And then my royalty for the year is going to be $50.
Yeah.
And it's going to take me 20 years to recoup, like it doesn't really
Definitely.
make sense.
Definitely.
But I also understand on the artist side that, if the artist is serious, obviously they're going to spend X amount of money on the promotion, marketing, and all that stuff. But realistically, a lot of people just don't have budget for marketing. They overlook that side completely.
Yeah.
So again, it's like it's a weird space where it comes down. It really depends on the artist, depends on the management. Like there's so many different variables to that thing. I know big engineers, they definitely get some
Yes.
royalties
For sure.
I think Jason
Giles,
was talking about it.
Manny.
Yeah,
probably.
so they all have like I don't know the percentages that they get. I don't think it would be more than 5 points.
Yeah.
I think it's probably closer to 2, 3, maybe like a percentage. But then again, if a record is a 10 times platinum record and you
Yeah.
get 2%, like that's still a pretty nice, nice, change in your pocket.
Yeah.
But I feel like because engineers are also a big part of the sound of the record, I think there should be some type of, some type of percentage. And again, it doesn't have to be 10%, it doesn't have to be a lot. Just 1, 2% is fine. Just have that in the catalog and you have multiple records. One time we checked the statement, it's like, okay, this song made you $300. This song made you $1,000. This song made you this. So it's like, it just accumulates and you just like have it in the account, right?
Yeah.
And I think it would be nice especially when you put a lot of effort and work in those records, But that's just my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. I think it really depends on the level of contribution that engineers are making to the record, because there are a lot of engineers, when you work with them, all they really do is they press record and they call it a day.
Yeah.
So they're not very involved with the creative process of creating the record, or if they're mixing, they just mix it to get it done. They're not really adding their own sauce. They're not really trying to improve the record. But on the flip side, there are many engineers, and I'm sure you do that, I do this, where it's like, if we're mixing a song, we're taking the arrangement into consideration. We're taking creative effects into consideration, reverbs, delays, like even sometimes production things. Like we might remove something, you might add something, you might go on Ableton, add a little 1-2 here, do a little 1-2 there. So these are all creative choices that engineers make. And I think when it comes to that, when we're so creatively involved in the record, I think when it comes to that situation, then we do deserve some kind of points. But ultimately, it does depend on the conversation that you have with the artist and the agreement that you guys have, and you know exactly what you're going to be doing on the record. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think everything you said, I completely agree. I feel like we have like this weird space too, that sometimes when you start doing more of a, like some production on the record as an engineer, the producer might not like,
Yes, yes, yes.
you know, so
For sure.
it's almost like you have to find that middle ground and figure out what they really want you to do. Even when it comes to creative stuff, arrangement and stuff, sometimes artists, producers, whoever is involved in the record don't want you to even touch it.
Yes.
They just want you to mix it, preferably the same as a reference.
Yeah, yeah. Just match the
Just-
demo.
Just match the demo.
Match the demo.
Make it better, but just match it. Make it the same, but just make it better.
Yeah. Yeah. Make it sound better than the demo, but it has to sound the exact same.
Exactly, you know. So I think it's it's a little bit of a tricky thing, but I feel like for me at least, most of the times that I'm getting some type of royalty stuff with the artist is because I've built that relationship with them.
Yes.
Like I've been working with them from time, and like we've known each other for, you know, quite a long time. They know my involvement. They know that I care, and like you know, they want to give me a little bit more because they understand the work and everything that I do, right?
Yeah.
But if you work with somebody new, I mean, it's not, if they pay you your rate, it's really up to them. If they like, oh, I really like what you did. This is like 1%, 2%, and all that. It's like,
Yeah.
it's almost like a tip on top of what you're getting, right? But
Yeah.
it's not mandatory. I think it's kind of like same thing with the tipping culture, right? It's like if something becomes a standard and people just do it normally, then it's like you wouldn't really think about it. It's just like, oh yeah, I'm just getting extra 1% or something, right? But you know how this music industry works, especially when you deal with the labels or like managements and like people on the higher end, because the money comes from the percentages. They look at it different. It's like if you already got paid, you're not getting paid anything more,
Yeah.
you know. So
Yeah. But you could say the same thing about a lot of producers, because a lot of producers, they get their flat rate, but then they also get the percentage on top of that, right? So
depends. Like I know a lot of, and again, sorry for to cut you off, but like I know guys that work with the record labels. They had like, you know, some work done with the labels. Doesn't matter which label it was, and they would say, I want, you know, 5K, 10K, whatever the price would be, and the label would be like, no, we don't pay those prices,
right.
you know. Or they tell them straight up, it's like either we're gonna give you advance and you're not getting any points, or we're not giving you anything and you're just getting the points.
So you're saying one or the other. It's never.
It really
they don't do a
depends.
combination of
I'm
both?
not saying everybody, but there are situations where those type of things happen,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Music industry is a weird industry because there's no standard.
That's true.
There's no standard for like
true.
one person. They might come with you if you're a bigger, you know, producer, engineer. They're gonna talk to you differently. When you like don't have certain credits and stuff, they're gonna talk to you differently, right? So it's like with a lot. I feel like a lot of producers on the come up that had a chance to, you know, send their beats to this guy, or like get stuff with the record labels. Let's say your stuff gets placed, there's not really much you can do because you want that placement.
Right, right.
So it's like you're gonna do anything for that placement to come
Yeah,
out.
yeah.
You know, if they're gonna, sometimes people don't even think about their rate.
Yeah.
You know, it's
true.
like they just wait and kind of see what happens.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah, I mean, it's yes, no, there's so many different, you know, so many variables to
Yeah.
this.
It's very situational. Let's just say it like
Yeah.
that. I think at the end of the day, like it's not like engineers are ever entitled towards it. It just depends on the project, the level of involvement, and the business discussion before you guys start working on the project. If you're working with a bigger artist, they have good numbers for streaming, and you know the artist, maybe you could work out a deal where it's like, oh, you know, I'll cut down on my flat rate a little bit if you give me some extra points, or vice versa, you know. So
Yeah.
it could always be worked out.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
It's just a matter of conversation, you know,
Yeah.
and like where things are going. So, I mean, again, it's one of those things where sometimes you might make money, sometimes you might lose money. It really depends how the record is performing.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess it's one of those things where, you know, everybody's trying to justify paying this, paying that, this rate, that rate, this is too much, this is not enough, and all that stuff, right? But everybody got their own bills at the end of the day that they have to pay to run their business. Whether it's an artist, whether it's an engineer, whether it's a producer. So it's like,
Yeah.
I feel like money exchange is just a form of appreciation. It's like you did something, service, blah, 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 you pay something, you can continue doing your thing, I can continue doing
Yeah,
mine,
yeah.
so.
I think the biggest issue that I maybe have around like royalties is just the fact that I think when it comes to certain people or certain stigmas, it's like, those people who are like, oh, engineers should never receive a royalty. Like, what are you talking about? Like,
Yeah.
there's that kind of conversation sometime amongst people where they're like, why would an engineer ever deserve a royalty? Like, that is insane.
Yeah.
I think that is something that
But-
should not be like thought of that way.
100%, but I also think it depends on what engineer. Some engineers might not deserve a royalty.
No, I agree.
In certain
I
situations,
agree.
like when I make certain records, I'm like, I don't even feel like I deserve royalties. I just did my thing. I just
Yeah.
like, you want me to do this, bam, bam, bam. I did my thing. I wasn't really too creative with it. I just used my knowledge and everything, my expertise that you wanted me to do this. I just did what you wanted me to do.
Yeah, yeah.
I didn't feel like I need to, you paid me for my service. You're happy. I'm happy. We're good.
Yeah.
But then it's like if I'm working with certain guys and they like, yo, I want you to suss it up. You just have your own thing, just do your thing, or like, right now I feel like in a past maybe like 2 years or so, I have more people that when we start work, not even when we start working, but when we work on something, they would tell me that they want me to be more of a collaborator,
Right.
more than an engineer.
Right.
They want me to be creative with it. It's like, just do your thing. If I don't like something, we can always like,
Yeah, remove it.
remove it, or like bring it back, or whatever we need to do. But it's like, they just want me to do what I think is right for the record. And in those cases, it's like they usually like, oh yeah, I'm gonna give you the extra,
Right,
this,
right,
that,
right.
that.
Yeah, that
Right,
makes
so-
sense. I think it's more so just like, I think it should always just be an open conversation. And I don't think it should ever be immediately just like, oh, no, what are you talking about, bro? Like, that's
Yeah, yeah,
crazy. Like, why would I ever do that,
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I think it's just one of those things where, with some people it makes sense, with other people it doesn't. And sometimes it's not even about the numbers, right? Because when you work with somebody that that they have potential, and you see a vision, it's like you can be like, you know what, okay, I'm gonna figure out something. Give me this, and like I would say, if you're like developing somebody, I would take more than just I would go on the master points. I mean, like, I need this much from the master. I'm gonna give you, I'm gonna bless you, but like I need this.
Yeah.
So it's like, because sometimes it takes time. It takes time for the records to like start doing the
Make
things,
money,
right?
yeah,
But
yeah.
if there's something there, and you can have that piece of intellectual property within your reach, hey, why not?
Yeah, that's true. So if you're working with artists, like, would you prefer to take a combination of points and your rate, or would you prefer like one or the other? Like, what would you?
I mean, it really depends. I think it depends on like how I work with the artist, what type of, how we vibe, how like the whole atmosphere around the work is, right? Because some people just kind of come in, do one project, you're never gonna see them
Yeah,
again.
that's true.
When you have people that you build something more than just mixing a record to or a project, then it's like, having that partnership in a sense, it makes a little bit more sense in like a grand scheme of things, because you feel more involved, or I feel more involved, and I want to do more.
Yeah, because you're personally like invested in the record.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. So what would you consider is like, so how we said it depends on the level of involvement in the record,
Yeah.
and it would require more like creative work. So what would be your definition of like creative work? Like, what kind of things would you consider you doing on the record mixing wise that would give you points on the record, that goes above just like doing the basic stuff?
I mean, just taking the record to the next level. You get the demo, and like the demo is fine. You hear things, and it's like, oh, it's cool. But then when you really tap into it, and I might add like extra effects, or do like some extra layers, maybe do even, like I said before, a little bit of production or something. build transitions,
Right.
build all the automation, get the vocals, cool, give some cool effects to the vocals, and do like some things that the record benefits from. And somebody hears it like, oh, I never thought this record can sound like this.
Right.
Comparing to what a demo was. I think those type of things really matter in my opinion. So
Apart from mixing, so do you think a recording engineer could ever get points, or should they ever deserve
are
points?
they doing vocal production? Are
Yeah.
they building harmonies with the artist? Are they like, maybe switching the lyrics a little bit more, tightening up the things? Like if they're doing some type of vocal production, I think for sure they should be getting something.
Okay.
That's just my opinion. But
Yeah.
again, it's a thin ice when it comes to this conversation, right? Because like everybody's gonna have their own view on those things, and again, most of the time, managements and the labels, they don't even want to entertain this
Oh,
conversation.
100%. Especially for like a recording engineer.
Yeah,
Definitely.
for sure.
100%. What about a mastering engineer then? Have you ever heard of a mastering engineer getting points?
I personally have not, but
neither.
I wouldn't say no to that. Maybe I have no, but the thing is that the big mastering engineers, man, they charge
Yeah,
charge like
They charge a bag.
a bag, like
true, that's
even on the independent side, like if you're gonna go with like a big mastering house that has billions of streams and plenty of records on the radio and all that stuff. I don't know what the rate would be for like major side of things, but I know how much they charge for like independent, and a lot of these guys are like anything between $400 to $700.
Just for master, yeah.
There's guys to do 200, 300, but a lot of guys, those top guys, right? That everybody always talk about, and they're always busy too,
Yeah,
right?
they are.
They like always booked up.
Yeah, they are.
$600-700 USD is like $2 billion Canadian. So
Yeah.
so I think I think a lot of times is like if you want to go with like a big mastering engineers, sometimes your mastering budget is gonna be what your budget was for mixing.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
like, and I'm not even trying to discredit guys because like they do a great job, but I think many times, man, these guys work like 3 hours a day.
Mastering engineers?
Yeah, call it a
100%,
day. You
bro.
know what I mean? Bam, bam, bam.
Bro, I've watched some of the like the mix with master tutorials.
Yeah.
Bro, it's like some of the stuff, like, don't get me wrong, like, they have great equipment, they have amazing rooms, and yeah, not to discredit anything they do, but it's like, sometimes they're mastering records in like 10, 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
And it's like some simple stuff. If you get a really, really great mix,
yeah.
sometimes all they're doing is just throwing on a limiter, maybe clipping a little
Yeah.
bit, adding some saturation, slight EQ moves, and it's done.
And it's done.
Call it a day.
It's call it a day.
Call it a day, you
know what I
know?
mean? Money in my pocket, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? So, hey, I'm not even, look, I don't even hate. I think it's like, if you can make money without like overworking yourself, 100%.
Yeah, for
You know what I
sure.
mean? Might as well. And again,
Definitely.
look, if people are willing to pay you, and it's like, I think the mastering side is not only the sound itself, it's the expertise. It's like, they know what is right and what is wrong, what they want to hear, what they don't want to hear. And because they've mastered so many records, it's like, they know those common points. I need to target this. I need to make vocals like this. I make to do this. I gotta do this and that, right? So it's like sometimes, I mean, if it takes like 10, 15 minutes, it is what it is. I mean, even when you're looking at, it's a completely different industry, but let's say like engineers, like the construction engineers, they pull up on site, or like electrical engineers. They check around, they look around. Brandon told me a story one time when he was doing like electrical work, and I think he was working electrical, and he said that on site there was like one of those engineers. They had issue for 2 days, they couldn't figure it out.
Yeah.
And they had to call this guy who charges like $15K just to show up.
15K to show up.
$15,000. This guy fixed it in 5 minutes.
15K to show up.
$15,000 to show up.
That's crazy.
And he came and he looked around and he was like, okay, this is this, man.
Yeah.
Turned on, everything is back to work.
That's crazy.
But they couldn't figure it out for 2 days.
Yeah.
Right? So it's like, okay, you're paying somebody a lot of money to figure out the issue. Because at the end of the day, it's like, it doesn't matter how long it takes to fix the issue.
Yeah.
You're
As long as the
paying-
issue is fixed.
As long as the issue is
Yeah,
fixed.
it's true.
Right? And it's
true.
like,
Yeah.
yeah, you can try to figure it out for the next week or so, but then it's like you might lose more money than just paying it one time and getting it done.
That's
you know?
true.
And I
That's
feel
true.
like I'm pretty sure you had those situations where guys would go to somebody cheaper to get the stuff done. and then they would go back to you because they like, oh, it doesn't sound the way how I wanted to sound.
Yeah,
You know, because I was looking for something cheaper, right? So
yeah. The cheapest option is never always the best option, man.
the cheapest
That's the
option is
thing.
always more expensive.
It's true, bro. But you're right. At the end of the day, it's all about getting the job done. So even if it takes 15 minutes, 10 minutes, 5 minutes, bro, if it sounds good, it sounds good.
Look, I
That's
mean,
all that matters.
let me tell you something. Even on my experience, I used to work with this one guy. You know, I would get the stems. He would record the record. Everything was like recorded, ready to go. I would spend like hours. I would spend like 10 hours because he was like, yo, I want the best mix.
Yeah.
He was always going for the top mix. So I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, cool.
Yeah.
So I'm like, you know, we did a record. I sent him the reference. I'm spending like literally 10, 15, 20 hours just tweaking, doing all this stuff, doing the extra throws, reverbs,
Yeah.
this, checking it. Like I'm literally like spending a whole day working on the record.
Yeah.
And all I hear is like, yo, but it sounds dope, but yo, can we just get it back to like how it was in the reference? Like the first bounce
The
that you
first
sent me, like
bounce, yeah.
I was feeling it, like that was the one.
Yeah.
And I'm like, man, I could have saved literally, I could have saved the whole entire day,
Yeah.
get paid the same amount of money, because he didn't care about how much he's paying me. He just cared about getting it sounding the way how you wanted it to sound.
No, I feel you, man. And I think that's one thing that I've realized too about mixing. As the more that I'm mixing, the more I realize, like, because I don't know about you, but when I first start mixing a record and I'm like in that like flow state,
Yeah.
and I'm not even really thinking about what I'm doing,
Yeah.
it's just like I'm hearing stuff and I'm just doing it.
Yeah,
You know what I
yeah,
mean? And it's like that. It's like that for like the first like maybe hour or two, and then maybe after the first hour or two, when I get everything, the foundation done and everything done, then I'm like really kind of hyper analyzing. Oh, let me try like a throw here. Let me try this thing
Yeah.
here, this thing here. But then I realize sometimes it's like you spend that extra 2, 3, 4 hours, 5 hours, whatever, doing all this little stuff. But then sometimes the first version that you did when you're kind of just in that flow state is actually the best version because you're not really overthinking anything.
Yeah, I think when it comes to that, it also comes down. I don't know about you, but that's what I think about me when I do those things. I pay attention to so many things, and I want to get the dynamics in a certain place, and I want to get the depth in a certain place, the stereo imaging. Like there's so many things that I'm trying to put in a certain place.
Yeah.
Where even sometimes when I send mix to a client, to an artist, they don't focus on all those things that I focus on.
Yeah, definitely.
They focus on the vocals got to be loud, the reverb has to be heard, and the kick needs to hit.
Yeah, the bass has a slap.
You know, and like that's the only things they pay attention to.
Yeah.
And for me, it's like I'm trying to like curve the space here to make sure like the strings are here, and like you can hear the pad in the back, and like I'm doing all the dynamic EQ in the back, like I'm doing all those things, and they don't even care about this.
Yeah.
Right? But I feel like because those things like I think it's also about the listening experience of the records. Many times, as I'm saying, people just pay attention to the very base of the record. And the thing is that the crazy thing is that the bass is always going to be the very first thing that hits you.
Yeah.
You're not going to be paying attention to anything else. But I still think if you're going to do all those extra layers and all those extra things when it comes to work, and you gonna listen to it, close your eyes, and just enjoy the way how the record sounds, then you're gonna appreciate all the extra work.
I would say though, like definitely the main parts of any record though are the vocals, the kick, and the bass,
Yeah.
and maybe like the snare or a clap if there's
Yeah.
one, you know. So I think once you have all of those things in the right place, everything else can kind of just forms itself around it.
Yeah.
The foundation.
That's true.
You know. So if you have those things always hitting, the bass hitting, the vocal slapping, most times that's actually what people pay attention to.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, clients.
Yeah, I mean, I think it also is. I think it's also dependent on the genre that you work with, because I feel like hip hop is gonna have a different.
That's true. Yeah.
Different principles, for example, than dance music
That's
or
true.
house or country or anything else, or rock, pop, and all that stuff. Right? Every genre is gonna have its own space.
That's true.
So.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
Because like even for me, like I always find myself when I mix country, for example, because I like when the record is driven by the kicks. For me, is the kick and the bass is what I'm looking for, right? But then I realize sometimes with country records, it's not about the kick, it's
Yeah.
not about the bass
Yeah.
as much, So it's like it's almost like I need to change the way how I think about something, and I need to find the balance where I'm like, okay, the kicks are there, and I shouldn't be focused on the kicks as much, because even though it bothers me, I know it isn't a good place to what the
Yeah.
records demands it to be, you know?
Yeah, that's true. I think definitely if, even for like rock records, like if you're listening to a lot of the old school rock records, it's never about like the kick or
Yeah,
like the
yeah, yeah.
snare. It's like when you really hear is like the guitars. The
Yeah, yeah,
guitars
yeah.
are panned mad wide. There's like the solos and they're just like right up in
Yeah,
your
yeah, yeah,
face with the vocals, you know what I mean?
for sure.
Yeah. So it definitely depends on the genre, 100%.
I watched this. It's like a little documentary. I believe it was dropped by Focusrite. They have a YouTube channel, Focusrite TV, I believe it is. And it just dropped a couple of days, maybe 2, 3 days ago. It just randomly popped up on my YouTube. So I was like, you know what? I was walking home. I'm like, let me watch this, like 20-minute long. So I'm like watching it, and I got so inspired by it because it it showed the story how, you know, those big Focusrite consoles, the blue ones. I forget the name of it. But they were like popular back in like 80s,
Yeah.
90s. And there's only a couple of them in the world. They weren't like, you know, commercially made like SSLs and
Yeah.
Neves and all that stuff. And that Focusrite was specifically designed by Rupert Neve as well. So they said he left Neve, and then he started working for Focusrite, and they wanted to, like, you know, get a console or like get preamps originally that sound like this and that. So he designed the whole thing. But what my point of the whole thing is, I think nowadays, when I was watching it, I realized one thing. When you listen to music nowadays, and when you listen to like music from the 80s, you know, 90s, and like the old school era of music, back then, the reason why music sounds better is because everything around to get it sound certain way, it was just done with this certain precision of engineering. And I'm not saying nowadays things are not done with this precision, because things are also done certain way. The only difference is that nowadays everything is mass produced. Where back then you can have like a custom specific
Sound.
this studio we're
Has
gonna
this
build
console,
exactly
has this equipment.
So I feel like what I wanted to talk about is, when you listen to records nowadays, you go on Spotify and you listen to playlists, you listen to a whole bunch of records. Does it feel like everything just sounds the same?
Yeah. Yeah, to extent, yes.
You know, because
Yeah.
everybody, at the end of the day, we all use the same tools. We all use, you know, the Waves, the SSL, whatever is out there. Everybody uses the same plugins, Fab Filter and all that stuff. And again, I think majority of people moved from hybrid setups or analog straight digital. So everybody's just in the box. So if you're gonna get that channel strip from Waves SSL, and you're gonna put this on this Mac computer, and then you're gonna have exactly the same exactly the same channel strip. You put it on the Windows computer. Those are two different machines, but those two channel strips sound exactly the
Yeah,
same.
they do. They do.
You know what I mean? They sound exactly, the sonic character is exactly the same. Where back in the day is like, every single module is gonna have its own variety
Yes.
of sound.
Yes,
You know what I mean?
every console has a different sound.
Exactly. Even
Yeah.
though sometimes might be exactly the same console. You might have a SSO 4000G in this studio, another 4000G like in another studio, you know? But I think the consistency of the sound is not
Yeah,
going to be.
it's not the same.
But it's like, even though the consistency might not be exactly the same, it doesn't mean that it's better or worse.
Yeah, it's just different.
It's just different.
It's just different, yeah.
You know, and I feel like those, even like with certain records, I feel like this is one thing that is missing in the modern mixing. I'm not gonna say every single record, but a lot of records are missing it. Sometimes when I close my eyes and I listen to a record, like when you listen to Backstreet Boys' first album, you close your eyes, you can see the room that it was mixed in.
Right.
Like you can see it. It's like, you know, okay, you don't see it, but it's like you can envision like how it
Right.
was, the color, the
Right.
space. Like there's so much
Right.
depth in the whole record.
Do you know who mixed it?
I don't remember. I checked the credits, but I forgot who mixed it. But what I'm trying to say is that you close your eyes and you kind of see certain things. Like you see the placement of the microphone. You see like there's so much more information
Right.
around music. Same thing with Michael Jackson. You can see the movement. You can almost like you can see how far he was from the microphone. You know?
So I agree with you on the mixing and the recording and back then it had its own flavor.
Yeah.
But do you think it's also the reason why things also sound the same these days is because so many artists are just mimicking other artists. Like there's no individuality,
You
there's
know
no
what?
creativity.
100%. I think that's also a big part of it. Because there's like, I'm pretty sure there's much more artists right now competing
Yes.
for the same space than back
100%.
then, right? Because back then you have to be in either a certain group of people or you have to be within a certain budget that you
Yeah.
can like make things work.
Exactly.
Where nowadays, like everybody can just go get a 2020 for $200.
Yeah.
Focusrite. Shout out to Focusrite, but the
Shout out
OG
to
Focusrite, you know?
I think, you know, I was having a conversation the other day with someone about this, but you know, back then in the 90s and the 2000s, like, you know how these days there's so many clones of the artists? Like,
Yeah.
there's like Drake clones, there's like the
Yeah.
Weeknd clones, there's like all these different clones. Like, back then in the 90s, if you ever try to clone someone else like
Yeah.
that would not slide, bro.
Imagine
That-
Phil Collins clone.
yeah, bro, that's just like immediate beef.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But these days it's just there's so many clones and there's like so much less individuality in music and artistry. And yeah, I think that's just really contributing to everything sounding the same because it's like people will love The Weeknd, but then they'll try to sound like The Weeknd, but then it's like even if they're mixing the record, they're like, oh no, like you need to match The Weeknd. Like listen to The Weeknd record. Like I want it to sound exactly like The Weeknd, or I want it to
me about
sound
it.
exactly like Drake.
I got
you know?
a record like this right now that I'm working on.
Exactly.
You know?
So yeah, man, I think that's why everything sounds the same, bro. It's
I think everything you're saying 100% I agree. I feel a lot of artists are scared to try new things.
Yeah.
It's almost like they want to get stuff sounding familiar because this is what everybody else are used to, but they are terrified of trying just to like come up with something new, different. And like everybody always say, oh, I have the different sound, this and that. But it's like you're trying to do exactly the same thing that everybody else are doing.
yeah, man.
You know, but everybody have that, oh, I want to do a different sound. I want to do this and that and that. But it's like, if you really want to do something, I feel like out of a lot of guys that are out there, I think McGee would be one of those guys that
Yeah.
he didn't care about making stuff sounding like
Yeah.
everybody else. Like he actually created his own sound.
I agree, I
the
agree.
guitar tones and like even the
agree.
studio, like all these guys record everything analog. They have like Tascam tape and all that
Yeah.
stuff. So
You
every
can hear it in his music.
yeah. You hear the noise, bare noise, like in the stuff, but it's like it's because they are not like they probably use a little bit of digital stuff and all that stuff just for, but maybe even mixing. They might be mixing everything analog. Whatever they doing, it sounds different
sounds
than
good.
everything else.
And that's why Justin Bieber literally used him to produce a lot of his album.
Yeah, 100%, 100%.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's saucy, bro.
It's like 100%, and that's the thing. Is like just doing things differently and being more experimental, being more open with sound. And like, you know, sometimes we see it in the comments too, on the when you guys comment stuff, and there's a whole bunch of people that are always like, why would you use the analog? You can just do it in the box.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, yeah, we know it, but this is not the whole point. The whole point is trying to do something that nobody else is doing, or like
Yes.
trying combining other things, getting things done in a different way. And even as an engineer, I don't know about you, but I mean, you have a whole bunch of gear too. For me, when I engineer, when I work on stuff, I am fully aware, 100% aware. I can just do everything in a box. I know it. It's not like I'm trying to like go against everything that I know. Look, I can just open Pro Tools and have speakers, and that's the only thing I'm going to focus on. No summing, no nothing. I don't need to send anything anywhere. But it takes away my fun of engineering. Like I want to have fun doing this. Like I want to feel like I'm actually doing something. Like I want to move on my chair. I want to go to the rack. I want to move the knobs. I want to like touch it.
Yeah.
I want to feel it. I want to print back the reverb. I want to print back the delays. Like I want to do those things. And like, yeah, I understand it takes time. It takes more time because I see a lot of guys are like, why would you do it? It's like, you just, you just have to work longer, blah, blah, this and that. It's like, yes, I get it. But it's like, there's a fun aspect of things when you do those things, when you
Yeah.
print things back. And I feel like when you start working with the equipment and you actually print things back or recall things, it might seem like you're doing much more, but then it's like you don't want to keep doing it back and forth, so you're locked in. You're like, do this, 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 and I'm like, okay, I'm gonna try to work around this idea.
Right.
Where you have plugins, you don't care. You can just keep moving left or you can switch the plugin, move it left and right and right. It's like there's no, I don't want to say no value to it for the ideas, but it's like you don't feel that pressure that you need to like, or you don't want to like keep going back and forth.
Yeah, I feel that. I think that's a good argument for analog gear. Like I completely agree with everything you're saying. In a world where everything is becoming even more digital than it already is, and people are losing individuality, and people are just going straight digital, plugins, whatever it might be. I think that is the push for analog, because analog could be what sets you apart and makes you have a different sound from everyone else. Because if everyone else is going digital, if you're one of the few people who are still using analog, that's how you start creating something different, right?
100%.
Yeah, so
100%.
it's even if it takes longer, even if it might only be a 1%, 2%, 3%, whatever difference, like at the end of the day, it still matters because it allows you to get out your creativity and get out your own unique sound that other people might not have.
100%.
Right?
And I feel like when it comes to the gear as well, the gear is only getting more and more expensive. It's not getting cheaper.
Definitely.
You know, especially in the past 4 years, like everything went up like 40-50%.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Like prices are insane.
Yeah,
You know, so
it is.
I think, but I think it's also because less and less people are buying it. So it's only, they doubling up the prices because they still got to sell the product, but they understand that right now, less people are going to buy it, but there's going to be a market for people that are willing to spend more money.
Yes, I agree.
You
I
know?
agree. Because me and you, we will spend the money if we want the piece of gear.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah, unfortunately.
But it's like I can't even be mad about me spending, you know, the money on certain things. Because even last time when I changed the tubes to my Avalon 747, and I got like I got one Mullard tube and two Philips SQ tubes, and they like top of the line high end tubes, right? Luckily, I got it for a pretty good deal. But normally, it's like it would run me like, for those 3 tubes, it would be around $500. I think you need around $500 for 3 tubes, right? I got it for much less. I found a guy that has OG tubes, but like he charges much less. But what I'm trying to say is like, just by switching the tubes, I shifted the way how things sound.
Right.
And I was like, before everything sounded fine, but then when I changed the tubes, I was like, oh, there's so much more depth to it. There's like, the top end is more sparkly, but it's like in a good way. It's like I push things and I'm like, I'm not hearing the distortion anymore that I was hearing before. You know what I mean? So it's like having all those little things that give you more variables when it comes to sound. It makes you sound different. Because right now I know one thing. There's not another unit out there in the world, probably, Avalon 747, that has the combination of the tubes that I have in right now.
Really? You don't think so?
I mean, I don't think so.
Damn, that's crazy.
I think so. I personally think so. I'm not saying like those two, they not necessarily, okay, the Philips tubes are rare, not the Mullers, like they easier to find. The thing with the Philips tubes that I got, they actually from the 60s. Because they are NOS, they like new old stock. So they were never used, but they were produced in 60s.
I see.
You know what I mean? So, and already like I need to, I ordered, like I got that, I put it in, I was like, yeah, I like it. So I told the guy, I was like, yo, I'm going to get he has 4 more tubes Philips. I was like, yo, just hold them for me. My boy's going to pick them up. And I'm going to like change the massive passive as well to those tubes.
What tubes are in the massive passive right now?
I think it's either JJ's or Electro Harmonics, whatever the stock tubes are in massive passive. Like Manly, they don't use like, you know, they grade equipment, but a lot of gear that uses tubes, like even Universal Audio, they don't put the top end tubes in it because it's gonna run them much more money. They want to sell it at the reasonable price, so it doesn't look like they sell for extra couple of $100, right? So they're gonna go with the JJs or like Softex or like any of those tubes. But then if you really want your gear to get to a little bit different level, you gotta buy like more expensive tubes. You know what I mean? And again, the difference is not huge, but it is huge. If you know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. I completely get that.
You know, so
yeah.
So I think when it comes to just making things sound unique, I think again, ears is also a part of the thing, right? It's like if you hear things certain way, that's gonna make you
Yeah, it's all about your taste, right?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I guess that's what I wanted to talk about.
No, I think that's a good part, man. I think it's a good part to wrap it up.
Yeah.
You want to do it? Do the
Yeah.
honors.
Thanks guys for watching. This is episode, I think it's number 12 right now, no?
Yes.
We have more guests coming up because the OTR episode is doing pretty well right now too. So shout out to OTR one more time. But
Yes, sir.
we're gonna bring a couple of more guests, a couple of more engineers. We're gonna get producers and some other guys involved in the music industry. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed it, and we're gonna see you next time.
Thank you.
Peace out.